I'm covered, I'm drenched in like years of sludge, moss, bird poo. Friends, welcome back to the channel. It has been really wet, cold, miserable weather. The end of winter has been, you know, just getting those last few punches in. You can see though, it's almost spring. This is a magnolia tree, white magnolia tree. It's usually one of the first to blossom in the springtime. And look at that. That, friends, that's a flower. And that flower signifies that spring is just around the corner. And can't tell you, I'm so ready. Hi, buddy. Wilson's limping. Spring just around the corner, buddy? So one of the things that I've been meaning to do, but haven't had a chance to kind of get around to this winter, is tending to the orchard, trimming up some of the trees here, and also applying some medicines for them, because when we moved into this place, we really didn't know what we had here. We knew we had an awesome orchard. We didn't know what type of trees they were. We didn't know what type of condition they were in. And this fall, this autumn, we were able to harvest a lot of fruit from this orchard, but a lot of it had some problems. So many of these trees have what's called codling moth, which is a pest. It's a moth, and it gets into the fruit, and there are a number of things you can do to prevent them or minimize them. The most important one is applying copper. Another thing that we had was this black dot. The black dot! The black dot! Sounds like something from a pirate movie. Yarr! The black dot! Anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted here. Getting a little carried away. But yes, so some of the trees had the black dot, some of the trees had the codling moth, and then trees like this hazelnut tree, they've gone and just started sprouting. I think it's called coppicing. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, internet. Don't worry, I know you will. And so what I'm gonna do is I've bought this handy dandy band-y aid for trees. We're gonna get in here, we're gonna give them a little snip snip, and then we're gonna make sure that we use the pruning paste. This is not brought to you by pruning paste, but this is organic. And essentially what you do is it just helps seal and protect the trees, because when you give them the snip snip, it can let bacteria in, because it's an open wound, because trees are living, they're living, breathing beings. There was something special in the water that made the trees grow tall and start to talk. I don't know if any of you out there are excited for the new Lord of the Rings series, but this guy is very excited. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna give this tree a little snip snip, because what it's doing is, instead of forcing all the energy of the tree into the main stalk and then into the nuts or the fruit, a lot of the energy is going here into these little, you know, subsidiary branches that aren't really doing anything. So we should take care of that. just take this little paste and we'll apply it to all of the cuts, just like you would a disinfectant if you cut your finger. Just gonna apply this cream paste on each of these little open cuts here. Help keep this tree healthy. This is the apple tree. And this tree produced a ton of apples. But unfortunately, they had codling moth and the black dot. So we have some work to do here. Also, this branch was hanging down, and you know, we do put the sheep in here from time to time to kind of keep the grass down and also to fertilize the soil, but the low-hanging fruit was far too tempting. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna trim these branches. This branch in particular, I think just we need to get it down because it's too low, and we'll just kind of trim up maybe a little bit, thin out a little, and see where we go. This is another apple tree. It kind of got blown over a little bit in a storm, and it has all of the aforementioned codling moth, black dot as well, but also had a pretty good crop of apples. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get in here, I'm gonna put this stake in, and we're gonna tie it off so that the tree has some support, so it doesn't keep growing that way after the storm. So let's do that. All right, that's looking a lot better. A lot closer to growing vertically how we want it to go, instead of growing out kind of sideways like that. As you can see, this tree needs a lot of work. It's all sorts of grown. There are lots of little branches in between, and I guess the idea is you don't want to have your fruit too close to each other or branches growing too close to each other, because that's how these bacteria and these bugs can spread more easily. You need that airflow. Same kind of concept with, you know, growing tomatoes, for example. So once again, I'm going to start with these low down ones. We're going to get rid of any of them that are growing that don't need to be there, and anything that's growing downwards. Friends, this is the sleep out. This building is a source of constant anxiety, and I'll tell you why. That's all bird poo. And what's definitely a bigger issue than all the bird poo is the fact that that is letting moisture in. This front facade is not sealed from the elements. The moisture is coming off, it's overflowing out of the poorly installed gutter system, and it's hitting the deck, which is splashing up onto the weatherboards and soaking through the bottom. The deck is another problem because you're supposed to have a gap between where the deck is and where the weatherboards are, so that the moisture from the deck does not travel into the weatherboards and affect the structural integrity of the building. There's a lot of meat on this bone of a project. I have all the supplies that I need. The main issue is getting this piece of timber, which is 6 meters long, into place. Once I take off the old stuff, because I'm gonna be completely removing and reinstalling two new pieces of grooved fascia. I tried to install earlier, which is this cement board, but what happened was, because this is not actually a grooved fascia, there was no groove, nowhere for the edge of this board to sit. And so that creates its own problems with weatherproofing, with moisture, and so this is not gonna work. We're gonna have to take this whole piece off 10 meters of timber. And we're gonna have to remove all the gutters, remove this piece, and then we're gonna have to take off what they were using as a grooved fascia, reinstall an actual grooved fascia. We will install all of the underlining, the eaves, and then once we've installed eaves all the way along the entirety of the grooved fascia, then we'll come back and we'll try to do a better job of installing this system right here so that the water doesn't pool, and then it doesn't drip, and then it doesn't cause unnecessary damage to this building. Let's get into it. Get up. I'm covered, I'm drenched in like years of sludge, moss, bird poo, yuck, algae. You know, it's moments like that that make you question everything. And yet at least the sun's out, so hopefully this will dry fairly soon. And you know, the tough part of getting all the gross pooled water and mold and moss and stuff out of the picture is done. So, you know, just trying to find the positives here. I am soaked in really gross water, but not all is bad. Look at the size of that bird nest in that gap right there between the roof, the construction paper. That's really bad and really gross, and I'm gonna go get a mask because I don't want to breathe any of that stuff when I scrape it out. Holy shit. Look at that. All right, well, demo's done. We got all the timber off, we got the drains off. I only got drenched once, which is good. And now what we gotta do is we gotta bring out the other pieces of grooved fascia. They're 6-meter long planks. This building is 10 meters long. So we're gonna have to cut. So I just did what's called a miter cut, which essentially just is a way to join two boards flush. I'm not great at it, but it needs to get done. So I have the two lengths of the grooved fascia here. I've laid them out, and I'm just trying to get a sense of the full length of the building and how long we need these planks to be. 3, 32, and 32. So that's where the cut needs to be made. We'll mark that. So we're gonna bring the circular saw back down to 0. We had it at 45 degrees for the miter cut. And we're just gonna do a straight cut using the speed saw as a guide. We'll go straight across there. All right, those are all cut to measure. And now comes the really hard part, which is getting up on that ladder and making the first board connect. I'm gonna have to use screws, and we only have one ladder, so I don't know. Let's see how we do it. Carrie. Okay friends, well, we did it. It's getting towards the end of the day here. We have managed to remove the old fascia and put the new grooved fascia in, and overall pretty happy with how it's come together. That was the biggest, hardest part of the whole job, was like getting it down and then getting it back up and drilled into place. But everything's looking pretty good, pretty clean. So the next step is gonna be to paint it. I'm probably just gonna paint it white. But yeah, no, it's good. We've made some progress, and you know, it's Friday afternoon, and I wanna get this video up to you this weekend. So we may have to wait for the full reveal on this until maybe next week's video. But I am feeling good to have finally just taken the initiative and got out here and got to work on this job, because it's something that's been bugging me for a long time. I want to get this building into top nick. I want it to be looking good and feeling good, and you know, it all starts with getting this all finished and getting the water drainage situation working and sealing off the building, and that's the first step. So feels good, you know. And I guess sometimes it's good to just remember that slow progress is better than no progress. And this has been slow progress out here, and the fact that I'm not finished with the job before the video's done, you know, I don't like to leave you hanging that hard. But the reality is that there's still some work to do on this. I'm gonna spend tomorrow editing. The video will be live the next day, and then I will be back out here working on getting this done and sharing how it comes out with you in a future video. So I appreciate your patience. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. I wanna say a thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button for future homestead videos, travel guides. Now that we have the office done, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna crank out travel guides, top 12 things to do in pretty much every single destination I've ever been. So there's like 70 plus videos, travel guides in the pipeline, and I'm feeling really good about having a space to sit and create. If you haven't seen the office renovation video, make sure you go check that out, and we will catch up with all of you very, very soon. And finally, last thing before we go, there's a new episode of Soul Sugar Podcast. It's live. I'll link it in the description. The podcast is super fun. It's something that Carrie and I are excited to bring back and stay consistent with. And so if you have some time, head over there, give it a listen, and we will see you all very soon in the next video. Peace.